Hi, and welcome to the Business Spotlight series. I'm Martin Bailey, and joining us today is John Baxter, from the Managing Director from eAlliance Learning Technology Limited. Welcome, John, and thank you for taking the time to join me today. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. Thanks, Martin. And thanks again for inviting me.
Absolutely my pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure. So, look, why do we just start this? Why do you kick this off? Is you telling us a bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, of course. I've spent the majority of my career working in education, training, and development across a range of disciplines, predominantly adults, predominantly business to business environment. So in 2015, just over 8 years ago, I made the decision following a redundancy to set up my own company. And that was really based on a whole range of experience that I've had, and particularly latterly in digital learning, online learning, compliance training, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I took the step into the big unknown and set up eAlliance Learning Technology. And we're still here today.
Which is great, because I mean, as I'm sure you know, the start that a lot of businesses they start out don't actually last 5 years. So lasting is a milestone. Now it's interesting because a lot of people these days go into business because they've been made redundant. It's a common reason for starting a business. So if you were to rewind with all the knowledge and everything you've been through now, if you were to rewind 8 years ago, is there anything you would do differently?
Oh, yeah. I think you've just hit the nail on the head. The redundancy. What do I do next? Well, maybe I've got enough knowledge to do this on my own. I think in hindsight, I'd have given myself a little bit more time to plan and invent the brand, and rather than self-funding right the way from day one, possibly gone interim, possibly taken something part-time and built the thing up a little bit more slowly rather than jumping straight in and then suddenly realizing, wow, this is quite a thing I've taken on.
So why did you say that? So why have you come up with that sort of insight? What challenges did you face that made you
The challenge initially was very financial, that I've got to self-fund this, therefore I've got to start generating an income, otherwise things are going to go badly wrong. And so, I looked at where I was. I looked at what I needed in terms of immediate resource to start, not just to invent the business, because I had that sort of planned in my mind, but really, how did I put that into practice? Yeah. And I think there were a couple of key things. Firstly, I've worked closely with some major LMS providers, that's learning management system providers. So I was very au fait with the digital learning industry. And I very quickly got into bed with a company who were then in the top 5 UK LMS providers, Unicorn Training. And Unicorn helped me to set up my own multi-tenancy learning platform. And from there, we were then able to sell unique customized learning environments to our clients that sat on our cloud-based solution. We then harnessed in the services of other software providers, predominantly in bespoke content. And so we began to build a solution that had an LMS at the core, and then we had off-the-shelf content, but not just any content, because even 8 years ago, there was some pretty average material out in the marketplace, and then there was some pretty good stuff. And so I identified and partnered with some of the main players, and over the fullness of time, interestingly, Unicorn got acquired by the Access Group, who are one of the top 10 UK workplace software providers, who I now partner with. Access then swallowed up a whole range of the content developers. So I've gone from a sort of multi-partnership arrangement when I started, now working with one partner that provides me with a range of solutions, but also working with a lot of strong, experienced independents. So I'm talking about consultants who work around curriculum, who work around content development, so that we've been able to fine-tune the solution really to meet a range of market needs that have sort of evolved as the business has evolved.
Okay, I'm glad you explained LMS, because it's very easy when you're in your own environment, and things. People go, "Oh, what the hell does that mean?" Now, there's a couple of things in there I want to dig into. I want to just step back. When we talked about what you do differently, you talked about plan. You have a bit more of a plan when you started out. How do you plan in your business now? How do you take that?
I think the thing. Let me take it back, Martin, because stepping into that space, it's a big congested marketplace. And whilst I had great knowledge of the industry and a pretty good network, you're swimming with all the sharks. And so you have to have a plan and you have to have a USP. And the way that I've evolved the business really has been around the target market, which has been small to medium-sized businesses, and B, a knowledgeable, knowledgeable to me, a requirement that businesses don't want a one-size-fits-all solution that gets handed over to them. Here you are, get on with it. What the smaller businesses want is something that is more customized. It meets an exact requirement. It's not going to cost the earth. And I should impress that our solution is cloud-based. So there's no additional investment in IT infrastructure. And that's a big issue to a lot of organizations, and particularly small to medium-sized businesses. They haven't got the capacity to manage additional IT or the budget to invest in that. So where we're going is a place possibly that those businesses didn't really have access to, in terms of having access to a top quality product, which is essentially what we have. So that was really the plan. The secondary plan was to have a model, a sales model that was sustainable. And therein, working with training providers who were, a lot of them, moving into the blended learning space, or indeed wanted to tap into online resources, but again, didn't want the whole investment piece, but also to generate a renewal model, i.e. they can go out and they will give them what they need. They go out to the marketplace, they sell it to their clients, we customize it, we scope it with them. Then there becomes a renewal coming through. And a great example is the training provider, and I'm talking about a number of training providers, obviously, but the training provider who is an ILM, an Institute of Leadership and Management delivery company. And so many of those companies now have had to cut back on delivery costs, and going online and going blended has been the one route that they've taken. So working with those organizations, giving them a resource that they can then sell into their own delivery model has been a real winner for eAlliance. And we built that, and that's probably been one of the platforms of success for us, has been that we've been able to work with those organizations. We've been able to reinvent the content. We now cover something like 50 different units across leadership and management and coaching and mentoring within the ILM remit. Fantastic. And, we've worked with content experts, we've worked with curriculum experts to develop digital resources. I'm talking not just about e-learning, but I'm talking about workbooks and other materials that they would need to deliver their programs in a digital environment. So it's been very diverse, I think.
Yeah, so I mean, you mentioned one renewal. When you talk about renewal, are you talking about recurring income? So they pay license fee for using.
The ones that, I mean, these are organisations that will typically tap into government funding, and they will then have recurring programs. So every month, every other month, they will be coming back to us and saying, well, we're starting another cohort, so we need X number of licenses. And that is what and I'm not saying that is not without its challenges as well, Martin, because obviously Brexit has changed the way that government funding has been structured, and a number of my training providers have had to pull right away because the funding's gone away. Whether that's temporary or long term, it's politically influenced, but it's changed the way that we've had to think about the business, and it's changed the way that we've had to plan the business as well.
I get that. But I mean, having a recurring income is something that a lot of businesses should always be looking to achieve, so rather than famine and feast. You've got this recurring revenue coming through your business. So the fact that you've got that is a very, very big plus for your business.
It is, but I think the one thing I would say to anyone who's trying to set up in a new enterprise is always beware of the factors that you don't have control over, because when you are reliant on particular aspects such as a company's training strategy, and that strategy can very quickly change, and they decide online learning isn't for us, or we need another provider, you've suddenly lost a client and you've not done anything wrong. You could be providing a great service. It's just that something's changed for them, or as I say, government funding goes away, or indeed your technology partners get swallowed up and you lose a personal relationship. So
yeah, but I think it's important you're aware of that, but not worry about that, because you can only worry about what you can control. You can't worry about what you can't.
Yes. Yeah, that's very true.
So being aware of it's fine, and then being able to pivot or put strategies in place to take the business a slightly different direction if that happens. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be fixated on it, because that can distract you from what's important.
That's very true. Yeah.
The other thing you mentioned was unique. You used the word your unique selling point, and there was a whole raft of stuff came out after that. So I mean, if you were to sort of summarize that or tone that down, what is the unique selling point of your business and your system?
It is quite simply that we work almost hand in hand with our clients to give them a digital learning solution that meets an exact requirement. Now, whether that's an exact requirement when we start working with them, or it's an evolving requirement, the main point is that we are working with that client to understand what they need and how they need to move forward. And I think that the point is, and I said this earlier, that the mainstream LMS providers, they will manage an account with a client to make sure that the renewal comes in 12 months' time and that the client's getting a reasonable level of service. Perhaps what they're not doing is really understanding the needs, the ongoing needs of the client themselves.
Yeah, so I mean, what I'm hearing there, and please, I'm summarising your words here. So if I've got them, please put me right. Is an affordable, customised solution that fits your business needs.
Very good. Yes, that's exactly it. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, so I mean, and that is unique, because you're right. For an SME, they'll look at a learning provider and they'll see this big, chunky, clunky thing and think, oh, that's too expensive, I can't do that. So if you're taking the expense out and making that available to them, but also allowing them to then make that work for their business, so therefore whatever discipline they're in, it doesn't matter, then yeah, I can see why that would give you uniqueness, and then that's really, really important. How do you communicate that? How do you communicate that uniqueness?
We're communicating through a range of marketing strands. I mean, obviously, we've got constant communication strategy going on, social media, LinkedIn. But I mean, marketing is a very tough nut to crack when you're operating on a small company, limited budget. And it's, for me personally, it's been an uphill thing, because I've never been a marketeer personally, and I've had to go through that learning curve to apply. We have brought in outsourced marketing services more recently, so we can move into specialist areas. For example, we now work very heavily in the legal space. And in order to do that, we really had to understand. So we invested in marketing for that. But it's been sort of balancing act really between how much can we put it towards our marketing. And again, it's a real new start business issue. How will I market my business? And so that has been a challenge, without a shadow of a doubt.
Okay. I mean, do you test and measure your marketing? Do you actually track what?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, we're tracking all our communication strategies in terms of email campaigns. So I mean, we know when the right message is going out, because you get more opens and you get more click-throughs and so on. And also, our Google metrics are telling us when we're doing things right. And we also know that because we're spending more money with them every month. But you can use those metrics to your advantage. But the key thing is actually closing new business, and how much of that marketing strategy and investment is needed to close business. And when we moved into the legal space, more specifically, we really got a true metric on that, because we had a cold start. And so we knew in 12 months exactly what that investment had bought us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. How big's the team you've got now? I mean, how many people you got in your team?
We only employ 3 people.
Yeah.
And I think, my strategy has always been to operate a lean and efficient operation in terms of we'll bring specialist people in, contract people in when we need them.
Yeah.
And I've got a team of probably about 10 people that we would pull in for particular things. And I'm talking not just about curriculum and specialist. I'm talking about specialist content development and people who can advise on certain things. It's a small project for them, but it really gives a lot of value to what we're doing, because we will then put that out to our clients, and they will see that as eAlliance, front end.
It's interesting. What's one of the biggest steps that any new business owner takes is to start employing people. So, I mean, what qualities? I mean, you've got three employees now, 3 in your team. What qualities do you look for when you're employing people?
Well, I'm looking contracting really. It's having people, possibly people I've known historically, who I know are going to do a really good job for my business, that they know what they're doing, they know what they're talking about, and they're really going to add value. And that, I suppose, is the value of the strategy, that I can pick and choose. Employing people at that sort of level, I can appreciate, is a big challenge for an organisation. I'm perhaps in the privileged position that I don't have to do that, or not yet anyway. The value for me, I do an awful lot of it myself, because you self-teach as you go. And therefore, things like the daily content development stuff, I find quite exhilarating now. But having the specialists there, it really is a case of knowing that they're going to deliver value and quality for the money that we're going to pay them.
Okay. No, good. And the final sort of question for me is what do you attribute your growth to? Because obviously you've grown in the last 8 years. What do you attribute that to?
Yeah. Okay. I think having the USP and evolving the USP has been central to everything. I mean, we've been able to achieve year-on-year growth, and that's been the achievement, I think. And I think it was initially about creating a really strong brand, something that was very clinical. It was very definitive in terms of what we did and who we are and how we do it, and pushing that out, evolving the website, evolving the marketing. I mean, that's been quite critical. Evolving the renewal model has been essential, really, to the core of how we've grown as a business, even though now we've had to change tack and slightly reinvent ourselves and go back to the end client relationship, which is actually now bringing in a lot of bonus for us, because clients are talking to clients, particularly in the legal space. So that, again, I would say, has been attributable to delivering a really strong product and service.
No, absolutely. I mean, do you do anything around the trades? Do you do anything around online?
Not really, because again, you're a small fish in a very big pond. Networking is very big, and we've done trade fairs in the past. It's possibly a case of just being recognised, and next time something drops on someone's doorstep, they say, "Oh yeah, I remember those guys." But the cost sometimes becomes a little bit prohibitive. When you are in there with all the big boys, essentially, it is very challenging to sort of sustain that sort of presence. But from time to time, we will cherry pick something where we feel that there is a real value add to doing it.
No, fantastic. I mean, John, there's absolutely loads in here for people listening. Three key highlights for me is start with a plan. Very important. Be very clear on what your USP and your target market is, and where possible, generate that recurring income. Don't rely on the client that's with you for 6 months and disappears. Get people with you for a period of time. Keep that recurring income coming into your business. I think are 3 or 4 key important things for people that are in business or considering going into business.
So I'll just sort of give a sort of closing note on that. Is you can never do enough for a customer if they're a good customer. Just go the extra mile every single time and exceed expectation. I've found time on time the feedback we get and you know, the testimonials that we're picking up on the basis of that have been really, really strong in terms of promoting our business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's an element there of being, of under promising but over delivering.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, great. Another final great piece of advice. So that's brilliant, John. Look, I just want to thank you for your time today. I think the conversation we had has been great. I think, as I said, there's loads in there for people to take away from it. And yet, once again, thank you for giving up your time to come and talk to me.
You're most welcome, Martin. And thanks very much again for the invitation.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Okay. Thanks very much.
See you. Bye.
Bye.